Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty, trying to, for the third time, record my review of Alan Wake Remastered, a horror game for the PS4. I don't know if it's on other consoles, but that's what I played it on. It is a remastered version of a game originally exclusive to the Xbox 360, which meant I never had a chance to play it. And I started recording this review not realizing my mic was not plugged into this tower, and then that it was plugged in but that the recording hadn't started, even though I clicked the button. So anyway, I somehow managed to not spoil myself on this game. I knew very little of what it was even about. Basically, you are a writer named Alan Wake. You've been pretty successful, but you're having some trouble coming up with ideas for your next book. So, along with your wife Alice, you decide to take a vacation of sorts in the small town of Bright Falls. Alice goes missing, and you end up trying to figure out what the heck happened to her. So, I want to start off talking about the gameplay for this game, and this is probably going to get a little wordy because I feel like I need to go a lot more in detail with this than I would with your average game. I don't even know where to start, but okay. So, first of all, there's like a little, let's call it like a compass circle thing up in the upper right of the screen. And you don't get a mini-map of any kind, and that is really annoying. Now this little circle thing will have a yellow circle on it, and basically you want to head in the direction of the yellow circle, which I did not realize until near the end of the game. I did take a break after the tutorial, so that might be my fault, but not having a mini-map really did make it hard to tell just where exactly you were supposed to go, because you couldn't always see like the layout of the area properly, even if you knew where, like, the direction you needed to head in. Like, sometimes you'd have to go like around something to get there. And while you are exploring, this is one of the biggest problems, there are enemy encounters. And unlike in a game like Resident Evil, where there's like a set number of enemies, and yeah, occasionally like a zombie you killed might come back to life in like the remakes, here the enemy encounters can just happen whenever. Now there's a few that are borderline scripted where like a few seconds after you enter this area or pass this place, you'll probably encounter an enemy within a couple of seconds, but like, if you stick in an area too long, more and more enemies will keep coming. And this is infuriating because it does this kind of like slow down thing whenever enemies appear. The problem with this is that sometimes it won't do this. Sometimes it will do it, but not for all the enemies. Like, it tells me, oh no, there's enemies in front of you and they're coming. It doesn't tell you there's also enemies coming up behind you until you get attacked. And this game doesn't have normal healing, like you can't use healing items or anything like that. The only way to heal is basically to just take time. Your health will start to regenerate, but you're not probably gonna have much luck healing up when you're being chased by enemies and they're trying to attack you. Now, if they're attacking you, you can kind of dodge by pressing the, I believe it's the R1 button. The R1 button is also the sprint button. So yeah, if you manage to press it at just the right time, you'll dodge the attack, and it's a really cool, like, slow motion thing, but it's kind of hard to tell when an enemy is, like, really close enough to attack you. And, you know, you're trying to balance your ammo. You don't want to, like, because you never know when you're going to need it, right? And, these encounters quickly became maddening. Like, the game auto-saves, it has checkpoints, and I'll be fair, it's generous with the checkpoints. But like I was stuck really early on in the game because I was at this one checkpoint and there was like a collectible I wanted to go grab, and I would go grab the collectible and then enemies would attack me, and I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go, and I did not have a lot of ammo, and yeah, like I kept dying, and it got really, really frustrating. And you can try to outrun the enemies, and sometimes that might be the smarter choice, but your stamina for sprinting is limited, and far as I could tell, there's no meter for it. so you can't really tell where it's at, and that was another thing that was really annoying. The game typically will checkpoint when you reach light, like little like street lights that are chilling out, and these lights also like this game has a real big darkness light thing. So when you're in the light, the enemies disappear. Now, generally, if you're being chased by normal enemies, they will reappear as soon as you leave the light. So keep that in mind. But your health recharges faster. Since we're talking about light, you also have a flashlight. And I've spoken before how I feel about the limited light sources in video games. Well, I don't think I've actually posted the video where I talk about that yet, but it's something I don't like. And here it's a rather weird kind of occurrence in that the flashlight itself is limitless. But like you have a gun and you have a flashlight, and you press like one of the trigger buttons to focus your flashlight, which drains its battery, and the battery will automatically recharge if you leave it alone, but you don't always have that as an option, because pointing your flashlight at the enemies this way can like dispel this darkness that surrounds them and allow you to kill them easier. It can also kind of stun them if you need to like try and run past. And you have like batteries that you can use to replace the one that's about to burn out if you really need to, but you can only carry 20 of those. And so like you're trying to balance keeping your flashlight charged, but also you have to reload your gun. But unlike in games like, say, Resident Evil, here you reload every bullet separately. So yeah, that got real annoying. You're just trying to manage too much at once, and like if you don't have any bullets in and you try to fire your gun, Alan will just load one bullet and shoot, and that's not a terrible feature, but just having to load in all the bullets individually got really annoying. And since there's no like inventory thing, you can't ever really see how much ammo you have for certain weapons. Like if you have the weapon, you can see it, but you will end up in a situation, most typically, where you have to choose between a shotgun or a hunting rifle. They put you in this situation more than once. And like for me, it's like, well, which one do I have the most ammo for? Because like I've picked up ammo for both, but you can only see the ammo for whichever gun you have. So it's very unclear like which would be the better choice here. And jumping back to the flashlight for a minute, like you have to focus it. Like I said, the focus button and the aiming button are basically the same thing. Now, if you just press the fire button, Alan will fire his gun, so you don't have to focus the flashlight. But if you try to do that, like, it just feels wrong. Like, if you've ever played like a game like Resident Evil or anything, it just feels wrong to do that. Like, you hold one button to aim, you hold another button to fire. If you just press the fire button, it feels like you have less control and you might end up wasting ammo. And trying to conserve ammo in this game was probably one of the most frustrating experiences. Because, like, the first time where I kept dying trying to conserve my ammo and not fight enemies, they then put me into a boss fight where there's an unlimited cache of ammo for the normal gun. And it's like, I wish I'd known this was here. But then there's like another moment later on where you get like flares and you're using them to ward off enemies, and you have to protect an NPC who's firing at the bad guys. And this NPC in my playthrough was just doing a terrible job. And there's a box nearby with some extra flares. I grabbed those, and we finally beat the enemies, only for him to have to do another thing. And he's like, okay, we need to do this again. Use the flares in that box to ward them off. And it's like, I used those already. So that part got 10 times harder. And it's like, you just never know when to conserve ammo. You will lose your guns in this game to an obscene degree. And like you save the ammo in like the shotguns and the hunting rifle because that just feels right, you know? That's what years of survival horror games have taught me. And then you lose those guns. And this isn't like in like a normal horror game where you lose your gun and you later will get it back and it'll be like all the same stuff, like the same ammo, whatever. That doesn't happen here. You will eventually get weapons back, but more often than not, it's getting, like, you'll find another shotgun, or you'll find another revolver, or you'll find another hunting rifle. Yeah, so it just got kind of maddening. Also, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, some of the lights that you have to, heal up in and be safe in and checkpoint on have to be started up via a generator. And more often than not, you will have trouble doing this because there will be an enemy on your tail. This game also has some collectible items. Most notably, you can find manuscript pages that are they're fairly easy to see because they're like glowing. And I like these because, being a writer, Alan Wake will often kind of narrate as he comes across interesting things. And the manuscripts provide a lot of interesting info. I don't want to say too much, but they're well worth finding. One thing the game doesn't tell you, though, is that once you found a manuscript page, you found it. Like, even if you get killed right after finding it, it's still there. Like, you still have it. You don't have to go collect it again. And I really wish the game had told me this. But this also leads to another issue with the game. There's like 2 parts of the game where they have bear traps. I have no idea why, they just throw them in there. And they are portrayed by glowing white, areas on the ground, which look a lot like manuscript pages. So you'll run towards these areas thinking that, a manuscript page, and then you get injured and trapped. And this is frustrating because then the next time this mechanic pops up, it's so late in the game that, again, you'll think it's a manuscript page. And it seems like that was a really stupid decision. Also, I'm going to warn everyone right now, the coffee thermoses do nothing. They are collectibles that exist in this game solely to unlock an achievement if you manage to, I guess, grab them all. They do not unlock anything else. I was under the impression that if you collect, a certain amount of them, that you'd, unlock, I don't know, artwork or something. You don't. They're useless. And it's infuriating because I kept getting killed trying to go get them sometimes, going out of my way instead of just heading straight for the destination. And it's I didn't need to do that because they're useless. And just spending the whole game collecting these things, thinking that they're worth something, is kind of infuriating. There's also little episodes of TV shows that you can witness, kind of like a Twilight Zone thing, which the game kind of feels like a Twilight Zone episode sometimes. There's radio broadcasts you can listen into. Not as much character interaction as I would have liked. I did like the character of Barry, who is Alan Wake's agent. That is my favorite character. And of course our cutout, second best character. But yeah, so talking more about story, it felt promising at times. I didn't really like how it ended. This is one of those games that kind of has an open ending where nothing really gets answered. And, well, they have since announced Alan Wake 2, but, when did this game originally come out, It has to have been a long time ago, and there's been, some follow-up to the story in, I think there's another 360 game called, Alan Wake's Nightmare, and I think there's, a comic or something. But I hate when games do that, because it's you never know if we're gonna get that stuff in the US. You don't always know it exists. It's frustrating to have to hunt it down. I want my story to just have a conclusion, and side materials can tell you stuff about other characters or something. And yeah, they've finally announced a sequel, but it's been how many years now? And apparently there's also some tie-ins with a game called Control, which, again, how would an Alan Wake fan know that? And it's kind of starting to remind me of Persona 3, where they just have this one plot point that gets unresolved and they keep drawing it out for ever, and you just want it to get concluded already. So yeah, the story did not end in a place where I liked, and it ended up falling a little flat because there was a thing that happened that was never really explained and could have led to a really cool moment, but it didn't. And yeah, so I gotta talk about the DLC. So there's 2 DLC episodes set after the ending that still don't really answer much of anything. They're very, very hard. I ended up, like, after I died at the beginning of the first one, I restarted it on easy. Because it's like, at this point, you know, I've experienced enough of the game on normal difficulty. I'm just going to do this on easy. Easy did not make it much easier. It was still really hard. The first DLC was fine, I guess I would say. I don't, like, it's not super memorable. But the second DLC was terrible. So, I forgot yet again there's a jump mechanic in this game. I don't know why this is a feature. That's actually one of the reasons I got so incredibly lost in the main game, was I forgot there was a jump feature, and I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go next. But yeah, there's a jump feature. And the main game has a really annoying part where you have to, like, lower these platforms and jump on them, and I fell to my death so many times, and it was terrible. But yeah. So they have a jump mechanic, and it's one of those mechanics where when you jump on something, you kind of end up running forward a bit, which is, again, how I fell so many times. It's not a good mechanic. And the second DLC was like, well, you know what the players need more of? That jump mechanic. So there's a bunch of sections, a bunch of parts where you have to jump onto stuff, and it's just... I fell so many times. I was getting really, really angry. And then there's this part... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a Ferris wheel of symbolism. And it's got some nice imagery, but it doesn't work really well. Like, I kept dying and I wasn't sure where I was supposed to go. And it turns out there was like this one area you could get into where there's like this big, like, bank vault looking door. And apparently you're just supposed to wait and that will open. And I failed to realize that because, like, the whole section kind of feels like you have to keep moving. So I'm just, like, trying to keep moving, and I fail to realize that door opens up and you have to go through it. I didn't want to give that much information, but, like, just in case anyone else ends up in that predicament. Because that just sucked. I don't know if there's much else to say about the game itself. It looks pretty nice. Voice acting is pretty good. But yeah, the combat is definitely the biggest. Not even necessarily the combat, but just how the enemy encounters work, where they keep showing up. Oh, and I should mention this. They reference early on finding, like, a torch symbol and a rock, and how there's, like, an item cache hidden behind the rock. And right after that, you encounter what you really think is a torch symbol. Like, it's a wooden sign with, like, a beam of light on it. And I thought that was supposed to, like, you know, like a torch, flashlight. Some people call flashlights torches in, like, other parts of the world. So I thought that's what it was referring to. And there's even a rock nearby, and I couldn't find anything. And it turns out that this is actually referencing something completely different. But I died a bunch of times trying to find that item cache because it was so misleading. So... oh yeah, and you can fall to your death. I should probably mention that too. Like, if you go over a cliff or into, like, a river, you're dead. Really a random thing. I kind of wish that hadn't been the case. Like, I'd rather just have some invisible barrier keep me from falling. Because, yeah. Anyway, so it's not a terrible game. There was a nice build-up going on for a bit. I definitely do think it fell flat. But I don't really regret experiencing it. So, I guess we'll talk about spoilers now. So, like I said, I love Barry. I liked the thing with the cutout. My favorite scene is probably after we escape the lodge or asylum, whatever that place was called. And it cuts to us in the car, and the cutout is in the back seat. Like, that was hysterical. And, like, I like the way the game amped up stuff, like how you're doing this, like, epic battle on the stage and stuff like that. Like, moments like that felt really cool, but I guess I was expecting it to end differently, because, like, when the sheriff asks you to contact all these people and give them, like, a code word, I thought that this meant that, like, stuff like this had happened before and they all knew about it. And, like, doing, like, Google searching, apparently that is the case, and these people really do know about it. But then nothing comes of it. That's never referenced again. And not only does it, like, leave you wondering what the heck was that about, but, like, I feel like it would have been a really cool moment if, you know, when you're trying to fight the big evil bad guy, if all these like random NPCs that you'd encountered suddenly showed up with like guns and started helping you. I just think that would have been super cool. And I don't know that the government's involvement was ever really explained either. Like, how do they really know what's going on? Like, they seem to have some level of awareness of what's happening in Bright Falls, but, like, why come after us specifically at that point? And, like, really, why not do something in general? Like, why not, like, close the town down? Because, like, you'd think you would, right? If you knew that there was some evil force that was bringing, like, stories to life. Because if that's happening, like you'd think it would have a bigger reach, because I'd imagine other people have written stories. And, like, I'm just imagining people writing, like, fan fiction and the fan fiction coming to life. But it just seems weird that we don't hear more about this stuff. Like, about these weird little happenings caused by people writing poems and songs or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know that I have much else to say about the story itself, despite this being the spoiler section. Like, that was just, like, the one thing that really stuck with me that I wanted to harp on. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. So, what did you think? Did you play this game? Did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!